boy without a dad. As I look back over my life, especially my days as a child, there are many things I wish I could have done. Such as growing up as a little boy, learning manhood from my father and hearing his love for me when he called me son. However, I wasn't that fortunate, which hurt me in many ways, especially during my years when growing up. For by my not having a father figure as a role model and mentor, I had to learn the taste of manhood from an empty cup. Sure, my mother was there for me, doing the very best she could, and even now she still does what she can. But just as a man can never teach a girl to be a woman can't teach a boy to be a man. And because you wasn't there for me, directing me as a child, there are many things I never properly learned to do. But just as both feet are needed to give balance to a person's body, Daddy, my whole life has been unbalanced without you. Oh, I'm not blaming you for any wrongs that I've committed during my life, although your not being there for me made me sad. But I can't help but to wonder if my life would have been different if I hadn't grown up as a boy without a dad.
Yep.
This is Footsteps of a Stranger. You are the only book some people may ever read. Watch what you write. You may be the only book that some little boy or some little girl ever read, and if that little boy or girl like you, they will do whatever they see you do, be it right or wrong. So you could be the determining factor of whether that child is a success or a failure, or whether that child goes to heaven or hell. Watch what you write. Footsteps of a Stranger. Often I sit around just observing the world, especially the different people I meet. And rather than place judgment to the differences we might have, I try walking in the prints from their feet. And though many of these people are strangers to me, I can identify with some of them well. For I view the circumstances which their actions are based on that cause them to succeed or to fail. I call it walking in the footsteps of a stranger, which I have found to be educational indeed. But I've also learned that certain things we acquire through education can be detrimental to our spiritual needs. I've walked in the footsteps of peasants and kings and in those of messengers sent by the Lord. I've even walked in the footprints that Satan himself made for their footsteps God warned me to avoid. But there's one thing I've learned from the footsteps of others that's inspirational both morally and divine, that I should try to live a life that sets a good example, because one day a stranger could walk in mine. You are the only book some people may ever read. Watch what you write. There's victory in losing. Have you ever considered that there is actually victory in defeat? Or even though you may have lost, you still won? This truth becomes manifest when your attitude becomes the principle and you know the best you could do is what you've done. And even though your best couldn't prevent your being defeated, still take pride in knowing your attitude was great. For attitude is a factor that captivates more attention, whether it be a ball game, a race, fight, or debate. So it's not always a matter of whether you win or you lose, but it's sometimes based on how you played the game. That's why sometimes you actually win, although by score you lost, but there's a victory that only one's attitude can claim. So the saying about the thrill of victory and agony of defeat is a phrase that's not necessarily always true. For though you may have lost the battle, there's victory in your losing when you know you did the best that you could do. Just can't thank God enough. No matter how much thanks I give to the Lord, it never seems to be quite enough. For he doesn't just stand by me during times of my happiness. He carries me when my times get rough. When I'm tired and heavy laden, God gives me rest and He comforts me whenever I'm sad. He's my strength when I'm weak, my doctor when I'm sick, and He forgives me for things I do that's bad. In a world that's now filled with evil and corruption, which people are falling prey to every day, Lord, I thank You for keeping me in Your ever-loving care and for showing me that there's a better way. For only by Your grace, dear Lord, and Your mercy as well, was I rescued from Satan's wicked plan. And though even at my best I fall short of Your glory, I'm trying to serve You the best that I can. The deception of independence for people to say they don't need nobody for nothing. If you claim you're independent, let's examine some facts to determine if your allegation is true. For to be independent means to be self-reliant or to rely on no one other than you. Your essence was merely a clot of congealed blood till a morsel of flesh came along. For 9 months you nurtured in the womb of your mother, and thereafter you came my flesh and bone. So your very birth was dependent on someone else, for you relied on your mother's navel cord. Through it you were fed and supplied oxygen while in a womb, and for that you depended upon the Lord. And what about the days when you were a baby and could do nothing at all on your own? You couldn't walk, nor talk, nor even feed yourself. Have you forgotten that now that you're grown? Then you aged a few years and had to attend school where you were taught how to read and write. So if you're still insisting you don't need anybody, you're like a blind man traveling without sight. Then you got a little older and had to get a job to purchase certain things you would need. You relied on someone else to hire you to work, even use newspaper ads for a leave. And what about the clothing you wear on your back that you boast about having designed? You relied on someone else for the material you use. So if you're independent, you're one of a kind. You've now lived your whole life claiming you're independent while boasting of your material gains. Yet even when you die, you're relying on someone else to bury what's left of your remains. There is but one thing that you're independent of, and that's the consequences from choices you make. But just as you're rewarded for the good things